So we have already done the animation part, and as I said, to recapitulate what we did last day, we did the basic steps of transposition. And when we are talking about the basic stages of transposition, there is this donor, just a second. So there is this donor cut stage occurring in the cases of transposition and retrotransposition. As you can see in the donor cut and endonucleolytic cleavage, reaction occurs, which is catalyzed by the transposase, which separates the transposon element from the host DNA. We saw that in the animation. Then the second stage was a strand exchange. That also we saw it in the animation, where a pair of trans esterification reactions catalyzed by transposase will join the 3' end of the transposable elements to the host DNA at the target site. So it was the joining of the donor DNA to the target DNA, and finally the repair step. So this occurs in all these 3 categories. And in the repair step, if you remember, DNA synthesis occurred, which filled any remaining gaps. The difference between transposition and retrotransposition is the fact that in case of transposition, as you can understand, a DNA element is jumping. But in case of retrotransposition, you can see the phenomena of reverse transcription written here. That means the transposition is occurring through an RNA intermediate. So that's the basic conceptual difference between transposition and retrotransposition. And this is a very simplified diagram. Once more, just to recapitulate, to summarize what we have learned, as you can see, these are the direct repeats and the inverted repeats. So this is where the transposase enzyme cuts the DNA element that will jump, and you can see the formation of the transposome complex that we studied. Target site cut, transposase inserts transposon at the target site, so integration is occurring, and then repair, gap filling is occurring. So what that we are observing here is nothing but steps in DNA transposition. But when we move to, this is the steps in DNA transposon or transposition. But if you look into the simplified manner of how retrotransposition occurs, as you can see, this is the transposable element. So RNA is synthesized targeting the transposable element, and from the RNA, the translation is occurring, resulting in the production of 2 proteins, integrase and reverse transcriptase. The reverse transcriptase is now making a DNA copy of the RNA elements, and this DNA copy are then integrated into various sites in the target strand, and here integrase inserts this dsDNA to the chromosomal DNA. So this is the very basic mechanism of retrotransposition and transposition. And we did the cut and paste transposition last day, so I'm not getting into the details. We also did the replicative transposition last class. And finally, summarizing this portion of transposable genetic elements. So we have studied the DNA transposon and the retrotransposon. Class 1 transposon are known as a or rather the retrotransposon are known as class 1 transposon. So this is a comparative analysis between the class 1 transposon mobile elements and the class 2 mobile elements. The class 1 mobile elements, as you can see from what is written, they have long terminal direct repeats, short flanking direct repeats at target site. And this is important. The genes encoded its reverse transcriptase. Transposition is taking place by an RNA intermediate. And one of the best examples are the copia elements in Drosophila and the ALU sequence in humans. When we look into the class 2 category of transposable genetic elements, they include the DNA elements that can move. So the DNA elements are bordered by the short terminal inverted repeats, and then they have short flanking direct repeats. So there's a direct repeat, the inverted repeat, and the in-between DNA sequence. The most important gene is a transposase gene, which facilitates the moving out of the mobile DNA. As the process we have studied, transposition occurs through DNA, and one of the best examples that we will be studying, in fact, is the ACDS maze and P elements in Drosophila. So when we are entering into the example part, we will be studying these two examples, and we'll also be studying the example of ALU. So this is a summary of the two broader categories of the transposable elements, known as class 1 elements, which moves through RNA intermediate, and class 2 elements, which moves via the mobile DNA sequences. So as I said, we'll be studying some examples. So one is the Drosophila. We'll be studying the P element in Drosophila and the ACDS system in maize. Just to recapitulate, remember, both are class 2 transposons. Now coming to the P element in Drosophila. Now this is the question that often comes. The P element often comes in your exams. So if you look into the P element, remember this is a DNA mobile element. So the DNA can jump. This is a non-composite transposon. If you remember last day's class, composite transposons are those transposons which are bordered by insertional sequences. In the boundaries, we are not seeing any insertional sequences. So these are non-composite transposons. As you can see, there are 4 genes and 3 introns. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say 4 genes. There are 4 open reading frames and 3 introns. So that is the P element. Now regarding the P element, the P elements were first discovered, as I said, in Drosophila, and they exhibit this peculiar type of phenomena. This phenomena was known as hybrid dysgenesis, and it turned out to be that in certain flies where these P elements were active, or the P elements were able to jump, those populations of Drosophila became sterile. So I'll show you in the last picture how this phenomenon of hybrid dysgenesis occurs. So I'm not getting into hybrid dysgenesis right now. Now looking at the P element, the P elements vary in size. The largest are around 300 base pairs in length. The complete intact PNA, the structure that has been shown here is a complete intact P element. The P element possesses a gene called transposase. And as you can see from the diagram itself, the P element has a 31 base pair inverted repeat. And further, it is estimated that 15% of the Drosophila genome is mobile, and the P element is an example of that 15%. As I said, they are also used to experimentally transfer gene into germline embryos. Another thing that is important for the P element is that a male fly or a female fly, if they have their P element, it is often seen that there are 30 to 50 copies of the P element present in their system. So it's about 1/3 of the full length of their genome. And as I said, that when the P element containing flies are mated with a non-mated, let's say, I'll not get into the non-P element right now. So if a P plus fly is mated with a P minus fly, P minus being a female and P plus being a male, it is often seen that the progenies that develop include, they have this series of defects including mutations, chromosomal aberrations, distorted segmentation and meiosis, and reduced fertility. So this was about the Drosophila P element. Now let's move on to another example That is the category of retroposons. Now, as I said, that when we are studying the case of P element, the P element is a DNA transposable element. Now, if we move on to retroposons, as you can see, the name suggests that these elements move by RNA intermediate. Depending on the size of the DNA, that is, the DNA is not moving here, but the size of DNA that is being copied into the RNA, and that RNA is then producing a cDNA, which is being integrated. Depending on the size of the DNA, they are divided into two broader categories. One are the lines, long interspersed nuclear elements, and the other is the sign, short interspersed nuclear elements. When we talk about lines, as you can see, they are around 35 base pair long. They can code for their own retroposition, so they are autonomous element. In the previous class, I had said you that some DNA elements which can move can code for their own transposase gene, whereas some DNA elements that can move cannot code for their own transposase gene. So those elements who can produce their own transposase gene are known as autonomous elements. They're self-sufficient. But those mobile elements who cannot move, who do not have a transposase gene, need a transposase enzyme for their movement. In those cases, they are known as non-autonomous elements. As you can see, I'll show you a picture. So this is the structure of line, as you can see. The length of this is a line, and the line is having, in this particular picture, you can see it has two open reading frame, and there is a 5' AT-reach region, and there is this black color portions that have been shown. They are the target site duplication. Line sequences are present roughly around at the 9 lakh sites in the human genome, which accounts for almost 21% of total human DNA. So we have this line elements or the line sequences very often present in our genome, which adds to the bulk size of the DNA. The shorter open reading frame, you can see there are two open reading frame. Open reading frame means these sequences are coded to produce a protein product. So the shorter open reading frame, which is about 1 kilobase in length, encodes an RNA binding protein. And there is a longer open reading frame, which is about 40 kilobase in length, encodes a bifunctional protein with reverse transcriptase activity and DNA endonuclease activity. So these two ORFs that are present, one is responsible, one of the product is RNA binding protein. The other product is as I said, the protein is a bifunctional, has a function of both reverse transcriptase and DNA endonucleases. Example of line elements in the human genome are L1. Now coming to another sequence, that is the sign. As I said, these are short interspersed sequences. The repeated sequence are around 100 to 400 base pair long. They are interspersed among unique sequences. So they are interspersed among unique sequences, and of the signs present in the human genome, it has been seen that there are about 1.6 million sites in the human genome. So signs occur in about 1.6 million sites in the human genome, and about 1.1 million are the ALU elements. As I said earlier, that the name ALU comes from the fact that this sign element contains a single recognition site for the restriction enzyme ALU1. They are non-autonomous, that is incapable of producing their own transposase enzyme, and they depend upon enzymes encoded by lines for their transposition. So more or less summarizing the number of mobile elements we find in human DNA, the human genome. So you can see we just now talked about the lines. They are autonomous, 2 ORFs, length 1 to 5 kb, copy number 20 to 40,000. Fraction of the genome, just 21%. So you can imagine what amount of volume it is occupying in the genome. The second category also we studied just now as a non-autonomous element. They cannot produce their own transposes. Their length is around 100 to 300 base pairs. Copy number, it's 15 lakhs, fraction of the genome, 13%. And finally, we have the human genome also contains certain DNA transposomes, of which they're again autonomous and or non-autonomous. The autonomous ones produce the transposase enzyme. The non-autonomous do not have the transposase enzyme, and they occupy 3% of the genome. Remember, lines and signs are retro transposons, that is, they move by RNA intermediates. And finally, coming to the other example of the DNA transposon is the ACDS system. As I said, the ACDS system, this first transposable element was discovered by McClintock. I started with this Barbara McClintock. So it was discovered by Barbara McClintock, and the first one that was discovered was DS. So the name, so she discovered, initially she discovered DS. Let's see that. And this DS, the name comes from dissociation. Now the DS could break chromosome at its site of insertion and could move in response to another factor. So this mobile element was incapable of moving by itself. So it was non-autonomous. Further studies revealed that there is another element which McClintock named as activator. So this activator element was shown to be self-mobilizing or autonomous. So it was observed that ACDS system, DS incapable of moving without the AC. Now, when we talk about the AC, and AC is another element, which is autonomous element. If you look into the structure of AC element, the first structure, you can see that the autonomous AC element is 4,565 base pairs long, and it makes a single RNA transcript of 3.8 kilobase, which encodes a amino acid of around, which encodes a polypeptide of around 807 amino acid. This particular AC element can cause a target site duplication, 8 base pair target site duplication. And as you can see, there are this terminal inverted repeats. So there is 11 base pair terminal inverted repeats. Now, it has been shown that the DS elements, the dissociator, as you can see, has evolved from the AC elements. You can see the similarity of the different kinds of dissociators seen with that of the AC element. All of the DS elements have this terminal repeats at the boundary, as was found in the original AC. Some of them have the exons of the AC, others do not have the exon of the AC, as a result of which functionally they cannot produce their own transposase gene, own transposase enzyme. And since they are missing the basic exons, intermediate exons, so they these molecules totally depend on the AC element for jumping. So this is the ACDS structural part of the ACDS system. And now let's look what Barbara McClintock saw. Look at the color of this corn. This is a purple colored kernel. Now you can see that the color is coded by a C gene. And the purple color is the normal color, as has been shown here in this figure. The purple color is the normal color. Now there is a DS element sitting here and the AC element sitting here. Mind it, DS element cannot move by itself. It is dependent on AC element to provide the transposase. Now, what happens if in presence of the transposes produced by the AC element, the DS element is jumping, as you can see, and it has jumped and integrated itself or inserted itself in between the color gene. So the color gene has somewhat become disrupted. As a result of this disrupted mutant color gene, we are getting colorless corn kernels, no color. Now, as you know that if an element can jump once, it can jump twice, thrice, and so on. So in presence of the transposase enzyme, the DS element had inserted itself into the color gene. Again, in the presence of the transposase enzyme, the DS element will extract itself out of the color gene and jump to some other position. So when it is again re-jumping from the color gene to some other position, the color allele is becoming normal, but not as normal as to its original configuration. So what we are seeing is a mottled kernel. So there are patches of normal colors present in between in a background of colorless system. So this is a experimental phenomena which was observed by McClintock, and this is how the AC elements can often increase their number. If you remember, when we are doing the retrotransposons present in the humans, you saw that line specifically, it constitutes about 21% of the human genome. So they increase in number. Now, this is an example of how they do it. This is a replication fork. This is a AC element. Replication is bidirectional. You all are aware of it. So replication is proceeding in this direction on this side and in this direction on this side. Now, let us look into the two conditions. In the first condition, once the replication has occurred, so the AC was copied from the mother strand. Now it jumps again. So once it jumps again, one of the strand becomes vacated. So there is no AC present, but the other strand, after replication has completed, contains two AC elements. Now we started with two AC elements. Initially, when we started, in this particular picture, there were two AC elements, and after transposition has occurred to an already replicated recipient site, you can see there are also two transposable elements, AC elements. So there's no net increase in the number of AC elements. But if we look into the second slide, picture, see, this is the donor site. This is where the original transposition had occurred. So this is a replicative transposition. From there again, transposition has occurred. So the AC element, so what happens as a result of this transposition occurring, this is the original strand. This was the wicked after replication, we got AC in this strand. And then again, we are seeing the jumping of AC into the unreplicated part of the DNA. Since AC has again jumped into the unreplicated part of the DNA, so that DNA will be replicated, and in course of replication, again we'll be getting a double copy of AC. So we started with two AC elements. So and at the end of the picture, you can see that there are three AC elements. So this is how this AC associated element is increased during the process of replication based on where it is jumping during replication. So this is how the number of AC number is increased. So this is the activator and the dissociator system that we studied. We studied the P elements in Drosophila as an example. We studied the activator and the dissociation elements in maize as an example. And these are some more examples of transposable elements observed in various organisms. And finally, I was talking about this phenomena of hybrid dysgenesis. I just introduced the phenomena of hybrid dysgenesis while talking about the P elements. Now, to remember, to remind you, to recapitulate, P elements are nothing but segments of DNA that can move in the Drosophila genome. Okay. In case of hybrid dysgenesis, now this is a critical phenomena, but to simplify this phenomena, I will be just discussing the two pictures that I'll be showing you here. This is a male fly and this is a female fly. P minus means the P element, the male fly does not have the P element. P plus means the female fly has the P element. So the P element is present in the genome of the female fly for P plus. And in case of P minus, the P element is absent from the genome of the female fly. Now such flies produce gametes. So we have a sperm and we have an egg. Since the male fly is devoid of any P element, the cytoplasm does not contain any extra proteins. But since the female fly has these P elements, which are segments of DNA that can jump, and since that is a risky phenomena, so the female fly also produces certain repressor proteins which prevents the jumping out of the P elements. So the repressor proteins present in the egg cytoplasm prevent the mobility of the P elements. So the P elements are fixed in the genome. They're freezed in the genome. They cannot move out. When such an egg and such a sperm fuse, we have a zygote. Since the zygote contains the P elements as well as the repressor for the P elements, the P elements are unable to jump. Hence, the flies that are produced are normal, fertile flies. Because the repressor elements prevented the jumping out of the P element from the genome. So this is a phenomena, this is the normal phenomena, and as you can see in the picture, no hybrid dysgenesis is occurring. Now, what does the word hybrid dysgenesis means? To repeat once more, when the flies from two of these strains are crossed, so P plus P minus, the progeny displays dysgenic traits, a series of defects including mutations, chromosomal aberrations, distorted segregation and meiosis, and the most important one is reduced fertility. So they become almost sterile. Now what happens? Let's look at this scenario. We are having a P plus male and a P minus female. Now one thing to be kept in mind, that the P male cannot produce the repressor proteins. So as you can see, the P minus female do not have any P elements. So their cytoplasm, egg cytoplasm, does not contain any repressor element. Now here the male is P plus. As I said, the P plus males do not produce any repressor elements. So this is the sperm containing the chromosomes as well as the P elements present in the chromosomes, which if the need arise can jump out because there are no repressor element to prevent their jumping. Fertilization is occurring. Now, after zygote formation, since there is no repressor in the P elements, in the zygote, so the P elements become free to move about. Since they are mobile DNA elements, they jump about and insert themselves into various parts of the maternal chromosomes also, as a result of which a series of mutation is introduced into the fly, resulting in a sterile offspring. So this is the basic phenomena of hybrid dysgenesis. So this is one thing, that how the phenomena of hybrid dysgenesis takes place. Just to keep it in mind that the males, as I said, do not contribute the repressor protein to his offspring, as the males have very little or no cytoplasm. Whereas the females that produces the egg, the repressor protein is incorporated into the cytoplasm. So the females, it's an inheritance of the repressor elements from the females, which prevents further transposition in the embryo. Another thing that should be kept in mind, that if it is a P plus female mated with a P minus female, we get a fertile fly. So when do we get hybrid dysgenesis? Hybrid dysgenesis is only observed if it is a P plus male mated with a P minus female. But if again a P plus male mated with a P plus female, both of them having the P elements, remember, the moment the female is having a P element, repressor proteins are being produced. So this will also give, this combination will also give rise to a normal fly. So for a normal fly, the combinations are P minus male, let's do male, female, P minus, P plus. This is a normal fly. This will give us a normal fly. And again, P plus into P plus. This will also give us a normal fly. Hybrid dysgenesis is only observed when we have a P plus male mated with a P minus female. So with this, we come to the end of this topic, transposable genetic elements.